Hey everyone, how's it going? Now, a bit of a special set of kits for quite a special car for for this year. Now, that being this year being April 17th, 2024, marks the 60th anniversary of the Ford Mustang. So, with that being said, got a couple kits here of cars themselves. As first of all, here got the Monogram 64 Mustang Indy Pace car in 124 scale. Now, with with this, also have a kit that I've been looking for a while, the AMT Ertl 64 and a half Mustang hardtop in 1/16 scale. Now, Mustang got quite the 16th scale one got quite recently. The 24th scale kit I've had around for quite a while now. Never really got around to building it. Wasn't sure if I was going to do anything with it, but thought about, do something special with these, build them up. As don't haven't really built up a Mustang on the channel before, or really in general, as I've mostly been more favoriting towards the GM F-body cars like the Camaro and Firebird, but considering these are pretty much what started the trend originally, it's pretty much safe to say go start off with what helped start the trend. So yeah, take a look at those. Now, starting off, don't have the kits in hand for now, but just as a little bit of a history on the Mustang, is originally it started concept of a two-door sports car, which first debuted in 1962, which featured a rear-mounted V4 engine supplied by the Ford Germany division, featuring a more streamlined design of an affordable sports car of the time. And then with that, you had the evolution that went to the Ford Mercury 2, which was a fairly similar design, but shared more components with the Shelby Cobra variant. And then in '63, the car became the '63 Mustang 2, which became a four-seater sports car, which was pretty much rough template to what would end up becoming into production in 1964 and a half, the 64 Mustang. Now, crazy thing is, like, the cars first hit production back in March of 1964. The the first Mustang that was sold was actually sold in Canada at a Ford dealership in St. John's, Newfoundland, to a air pilot in the area, which that car still exists, residing at Henry Ford Museum in... Oh, slight disruption. So, you got the 64, which then, of course, you got the three body styles: convertible, coupe, and the ever so popular fastback variant, as seen on this 1966 example. Then eventually in '66 as well, Carroll Shelby created his own version, the Shelby GT350 and 500 variant, which pretty much took the same car but added rear tail lights and modified the front end to make it look more distinguished, then more performance options, well, and of course pretty much better suspension handling parts. Then '67 also showed the introduction of the Mercury Cougar, which was the same car, just different overall body. Featured very pretty much the same engines as the Mustang in the later years, but just on for Ford's Mercury division, got that which the first generation, of course, going from 1967 to 1970, and then 71 onwards, it became a much larger car and more of a luxury sports coupe more than anything. Then 68, 69, another updated design, which is one of my more preferred favorite eras, the 69 Mustang. This one here being a Mach 1, which you do also have the version regular 302, Boss 302, 351 Cleveland Boss, and of course you have the 427, 428, and 429 cars. Though the 429s were more prominent towards the 1970 model, which is quite similar, just modified headlights and just front valence. So, went to that. And then 71 saw the major change, going to the much more enlarged body style, which was complete redesign. Still sharing a lot of components for the earlier cars, being still considered a Gen 1, even though I consider it more of a Gen 2 car. So, and then of course you have go into 73, which was the final year, and then the 74 model with everyone's oh so popular Mustang 2, which was a Pinto-based platform, which saw a drastic reduce in horsepower and just to get better fuel economy during the oil crisis of the 70s, which I do have a model kit of it, but just don't have it with me at the moment. Though shortly after, things were starting to look better with the redesign in 78 as the Fox body car, which ran from 78 to 1993, featuring a bunch of options from your turbo 4-cylinders, V6s, and V8s. And then, so yeah. And then, of course, this being featured yet again as another pace car for the Indy 500. No, 74, no, 80, no, 94 comes around. And this is another concept that I have laying around, the Mustang Mach 3, which was supposed to be a more kind of a play around with what there is to be a more spaceship-like design of the 90s, that's what the big theme was. So got that, which a lot of the characteristics did go into production on the what is considered the SN95 or New Edge Mustang. As let's hear this one's a 99, so New Edge. So a few things were transferred over, though the more stylistic cues of a more bloated jelly bean style did go into production on quite a lot of the Taurus of the late 90s, early 2000s. And then with that you had the SN 197, which is mid 90s, or the post 90s going into the 2000s. Then you go and get yourself into the more modern era from the last decade or so. You got the S550, which is this one here, coming out in 2015. Which did feature quite a revolutionary setup, ditching the live axle rear suspension that the car had been using for pretty much the last 50 or so years prior to it. So getting a car that's much nicer handling, better performance, and then having the options between the 4, 6, and 8-cylinder options. So quite a lot to choose from getting into the modern cars, even though it may not seem like you get a huge amount with a lot of the standard features compared to what you'd get on the original model. Now, this year for 2024, there was also a redesign for the S650 body style that came out, which there's been seen a few of them come out, which look pretty good. Not exactly the best design ever, with the front bumper being different, but I'm sure give it a year or two, it'll be more refined. So that was a little bit of a quick look on just the history of the car. Now, I'm gonna get these cleared off here just in a minute, and we'll start taking a look at the kits, as that's what most of you are here for. So now, with everything else out of the way, going to take a look now at the 1/16 scale version of the Mustang. Now, went ahead and already opened up the box, but still have some stuff still in the plastic bags. And one of the things I was quite surprised about was how everything got stuff still in the bag here, but everything pretty much came with these elastic bands on to help minimize sway and when the parts are in packaging, so they're not all shuffling around, making it difficult to pack everything, which I was quite impressed about. Got of course get the bag unrolled. Let's get the knife out. First parts tree we have here is of the dash, which got quite a good amount of detail with the instrument cluster, glove box, and radio. Then you got tack gauges for the Rally Pack edition. Then got the door hinges, as this kit does feature opening doors as well. Then got choice of steering wheels between the stock 3-spoke design or a more 90s aftermarket custom steering wheel, which I'm sure would look good for something. And of course you got your set of wheel backs. And then moving on, you got quite a nice set of steely wheels with the hubs showing through. Then you got probably what looks to be like subframe bracing, radiator, and possible firewall stuff. Got a 12-volt battery as well, with some nicely sized connections, so could wire that up as well when stuff gets put together. Then got by the looks of some engine stuff. Got the double carburetor setup for the air cleaner. Got the exhaust manifolds, starter, carburetor, and I'm guessing alternator as well. That'll get painted up. That'll get painted up separately from rest of the belt and pulley system assembly. And getting onto the engine, got here the 289, which once compared to once you compare it to the 125, 124 scale version, it's definitely much larger in size. Then got some more parts probably like the exhaust inlets that'll connect to the side of the engine block, water pump and timing chain cover, intake for the double carb setup, license plate brackets, which is quite nice, even though majority of the time is, especially like even on box art, the decals just placed right on the body, to represent the license plate. So, pretty good stuff. Then here's the both the driver and passenger side door, which are nicely molded with very minimal flash. Then do have your handles, like you have the window crank and your door handle release, which is nicely prominently shown, as you can go in there with a little pen, detail everything up as needed. Now, with a lot of this, I do already have the 1/16 scale version that I got as part of a parts lot some years ago, and so here's kind of how the full door assembly would look. And do also have a couple other parts here and there, like also have the engine, which painted in blue, but by the looks of it was painted green at one point. So what I'm starting to think by looks of all these pieces is that with the parts that I will end up being left with on when everything's all built, of course, I'll end up having enough to rebuild the other kit, as it's about anywhere between like 90 to 95% there. It just needs some pretty much some body work, paint and stuff. So moving on with parts, got quite a lot of larger pieces as we're getting through this. Have the chassis itself, which got fairly basic amount of details. Does have the brake lines and cables going along the underside. True dual exhaust with muffler. It looks pretty good. Does sit quite nice and square to the ground, so doesn't need a huge amount of work, as there will be times where other kits you'll see these and the whole exhaust system's just twisted around, having to fight with it getting it lined up. So it's good knowing won't have to worry about it too much now. Got some suspension pieces here. Front coil springs, distributor, sway bar, and rear differential. It's quite nicely detailed. Nothing too crazy to it. And then of course got the brake master cylinder, which will go to the firewall. Then got a couple other small parts, or larger small parts here, like got the front suspension cross members, the wheel hub brackets, which will support the upper and lower halves together. The back half of the exhaust system. It's got quite the thick amount of sprue just for these parts. Then you got the lower back splash, or the splash shield, and then two sets actually of rear leaf springs. One being heavily arched, being the stock configuration, and a more flattened leaf spring to be what I'd imagine the more custom lowered version. So that's looking pretty good. Another splash pan and the drive shaft and transmission support. Got some other parts here, like got the hood hinges, which to my surprise seem to be quite accurately detailed, even though the triangle at the bottom isn't quite how it would look, but from where it would sit in the engine bay, does look quite representative of the actual hinges. That's how it would look like when everything's closed. Then got set of pretty much your set of seats, the base. You got your base, your top half, and your backings. Now, by the looks of it, the seats do hinge, which is a neat touch, so that you can have it with the doors open, having representing you'd have passengers getting from the front and back of the car to the front. So, yeah, so that'll be that's a neat little touch to have. Then do have a couple loose pieces here, being the rear struts for the for the leaf springs. These little pieces there. Put those there. So got that, and get on to finishing up with the colored part, with these brownish tan colored pieces, which is interesting to see a late 90s, early 2000s Ertl kit to be molded in anything other than your standard gray, which was the more common color. So, do have here the body, which is quite nicely molded, and does have these nice cardboard supports on it, so during travel, when the box gets squished, the whole A pillars aren't going to be fully collapsed, which is nice to see, as nothing's worse than opening up a vintage kit that's been sealed for like 30-40 years, just to find out that there's been some crush damage and not being able to get replacement parts. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. Would be nice though if the trunk did open, which where do I have it? Yes, I got also, along with the parts kit that I briefly showed from the previous builder. Had a previous builder installed a rear subsystem, and cleverly enough took the standard hubcaps, turned them upside down, and have it to be subwoofers, which is a neat touch. And while playing around with this, been playing around with the idea of actually turning this into an actual functional subsystem. Not, I have looked around. It can be done, but just not totally sure if I want to go through the hassle of doing it, even though it would be quite cool. So that's just a plan I might end up doing. So put that to this. I want to put that to the side. It's not really that important at the moment. So getting back to the main kit, here's the interior tub with the rear seats molded in. Quite pretty much expected kind of stuff from average kit. Now it's been quite a while since I built a 1/16 scale kit on the channel, as last time by the looks of it was like 2 years ago, when I built the the 63 Corvette by MPC to go with a couple other Corvettes. Another bag full of parts, being the steering column and belt and pulley system, which is pretty much quite basic, only having an auxiliary going to the auxiliary alternator. So it's quite nice to leave those in the bag so those don't get all tossed around. Now, one thing I was quite surprised about when I was going through the parts earlier is that all the clear parts, like windows and lenses, they were all sealed in these plastic bags, which is quite nice, as a lot of these older kits, you'd have the glass pieces just thrown into the box without plastic wrapping, and then you'd have the tires thrown in as well. So you'd end up having it where, for instance, you'd have one of the tires sitting on the glass for like 20 years, which would end up burning all the way through. So seeing that the glass is protected does help reduce having to trying to figure out how to get those cleaned up and dealt with. And speaking with the tires, kit does come with two full sets of tires. Well, wheels and tires actually. Haven't quite got to those yet. Do have a set. Does come with a set of these Goodyear Performance Rally GT tires, which got quite a good tread pattern on them. Pretty much go-to aftermarket wheel or the aftermarket tires at the time. It's quite nicely that the internal has been cut out and not having to deal with that. And along you have full set of your standard Firestone Supreme balloon tires. Which are pretty much your standard road tires of the time. Nothing too crazy, but not exactly a performance tire by any means, especially by today's standard. So get a full set of those. They can pretty much have pretty much go between having your custom and stock tires. Now, looking here, quite a surprise to see is that do have a white parch tree, which represents the white wall tires, which I'm curious to see how these would go on, as by the looks of it would sit on with the rim, and then the rim and white wall would just slide over top of everything, which is quite unique, as having to paint the white wall on the actual tire doesn't exactly work out the best at sometimes, especially when with the flexibility, the paint ends up chipping over time. So getting further down on the parts, got chrome tree here, the first chrome tree here, which has the Mustang grill and grill insert emblem, which is quite nice to have it separately, so you can just paint the grill the black and then put the insert in separately, which is quite nice, so that don't have to worry about getting smudges all over the extra parts. And got rear view mirror, nice and chrome and reflective. Air filter cover for the stock configurations with the single barrel carburetor. Got the knockoff center caps for the hubcaps themselves. Not exact. Oh yeah, these would be. Wasn't sure what these would have been at first, but by the looks of it, they're the carburetors for the dual carb setup. By the looks of it, there might just be the two, as you might be only able to use one or the other, and not both at the same time. Then you got your front and rear revert spotlights and reverse lights. So quite nice. So that's looking quite nicely. There is does feel like that there should be a couple other parts, like in this area here, as of how empty everything is on the parts tree. So, but whatever. And then getting to the final chrome tree. This one here is a much larger tree that quite surprised to see. So starting off, we got on the bottom, or on the one side here, it's got the pair of front and rear bumpers, the Cobra Performance rear or the oil pan and valve covers with factory hubcaps to go over the steelies. valve cover, and your your flower wheel 5 spokes, which is quite a nice touch. Yeah, these definitely look good on, especially making a resto mod version of the Mustang. Just being able to use these for something is quite nice. Though, I feel like I might end up just using these for another project. The only concern is that they've got the nubs at the back, so not quite sure if these would work for other stuff, but always worth the chance. And if anything, just cut them off and pretty much make do with what you got. Now, getting on to the bottom of the barrel, we've got metal axle, which go through the front and back. Have the other just got the two of them here, so both even sizes, which is quite nice. Even though the more Revell Monogram style of have just gluing the wheels onto a hub does seem to be more better, so that you can have posable steering. But overall, can't complain too much, as this was the AMT go-to style. Put that there. And a nice touch that's given is that you have vinyl tubing, as this one here looks to be like radiator hoses and such, and this to make up your spark plug wires. As don't think I quite have it here. Oh yeah, I do have it here. So this is the engine that was built up. Do have one of the spark plug boots installed, so get that installed, and then just look up a couple diagrams on how to line up, just to line up all the spark plugs and make sure they line up with the distributor. So overall, that's quite neat to have supplied vinyl for the kit. Another loose piece here got the radiator fan and one of the rear taillight bezels. And then you also have molded here in red, the transparent lenses, which you do get provided with 2 sets. Now, by the looks of it, they feel to be exactly the same. Only difference is that these ones on the right have nubs on the backing, whereas on the left side they're all smooth and flush. But overall, the lenses themselves on the outer side look basically the same. So, not quite sure what that's all about, but whatever. So, and then finishing it off, got the decal sheet here, which is nothing too crazy, as does have the paint splashes of which was pretty much the common theme of the 90s, being able to do crazy elaborate color shift stripes. And then you got a set of license plates get the choice of PEI and California. And a couple smaller ones like what looks to be like a warning, or just layout for the battery and the label for the air filter cover. So I highly doubt I'll ever end up using these for something, but they're there if, say, someone wanted to replicate the box art, which on the box over here does show you what it would look like with the colorful stripes. Of course, showing the diagram of the parts. So get that put back there. And then got the instructions, which are on quite a larger piece of paper than your typical kit, which is a triple fold. Though the odd and interesting thing is how it's printed. Now you have this large piece of paper, but yet you have these diagrams which just feel so undersized, as you have all this empty space which you'd think would have some writing, which some of the parts do have writing, but overall, there's just not a huge amount to it, and especially once you get to the lower edges, it's almost like the company could have made the pages either a little bit smaller or the diagrams larger, though given this kit came out in 2000, probably been released a couple times before then, and did see that it was released once afterwards in 2014 for the Mustang 50th anniversary. So, yeah, so that's pretty much that, and gives you quite the descriptive list for if you want to read through it. Yeah, so that's pretty much that. Now, when I start getting this put together, not quite sure on what my plans are, though I'm thinking like kind of leaning with going the more factory stock version on this one, but with the extra parts I have, might end up doing a more subtle custom version, as not as what I could probably end up doing is, with the chassis I have, work out a functional subsystem for it and leave it as this as just a basic display. But once I get everything installed, or when I get everything put together and installed, I can just swap the chassis over so that I can have what was the more nicer Mustang that was built up, and being able to have all the custom accessories with it. So that's pretty much how I'm thinking it'll be going. So, of course, this is going to be more of a multi-part series, as I have a feeling that this is going to be going on for way longer than a single video's worth without taking up a huge amount of time. So, pretty much going to cut it at that. Going to get going to get more parts put together on the Mustang pace car, as well as the 1/16 scale version. So yeah, hopefully I should be able to keep a more consistent upload pace with this, as been trying to do a bunch more series, but they didn't really work out overall. So yeah, so looking forward to seeing how this goes. So yeah, so that'll be it for this. Yeah, pretty much it for this video. So till next time, see you later.